The Galactic Council had always considered humans to be soft, too emotional, too reckless, the kind of species that would cry over injured animals while their own cities burned. Commander Zarketh of the Apex Legion had heard the rumors, had seen the psychological profiles, and had dismissed humanity as another weak link in the chain of civilized space. That was before the incident on Proxima 7. The mining colony had been a routine extraction site, nothing more than a cluster of prefabricated habitats on a frozen moon. The attack came without warning. The Cretan raiders, brutal and efficient, swept through the settlement like wildfire. They took what they wanted: supplies, technology, hostages. The Apex Legion arrived 6 hours too late, their warships cutting through the atmosphere with the fury of avenging gods. What they found changed everything. Zarketh stood in the central square, his 4 eyes scanning the devastation. Bodies lay scattered across the frozen ground, both human and alien. His soldiers moved through the wreckage with practiced efficiency, their weapons raised, searching for survivors. The air was thick with smoke and the metallic tang of blood. "Commander," his lieutenant called out, her voice tight with something Zarketh couldn't quite identify. "You need to see this." He followed her to the eastern section of the colony, where a storage facility had partially collapsed. His soldiers had formed a circle around something, their weapons lowered, their heads bowed in a gesture of respect that shocked him to his core. Apex soldiers didn't bow, ever. Zarketh pushed through the circle and stopped. There, half buried under debris and covered in frost and blood, was a human female. She was small by Apex standards, barely reaching his chest if she had been standing. But she wasn't standing. She was curled around something, her body forming a protective shield, her arms locked in a death grip around her charge. "Get medical here now," Zarketh commanded. But even as he spoke, his scanner told him what he already knew. The human was gone. "Had been for hours, Commander," the lieutenant said softly. "Look what she's protecting." Zarketh knelt down, his massive frame dwarfing the frozen tableau. Carefully, reverently, his soldiers helped him move the human's body. What they revealed made his 3 hearts skip in synchronized horror. A Cretan cub, not a human child. Not even an allied species. A cub belonging to the very raiders who had slaughtered this colony. The cub was alive somehow, barely breathing, hypothermic but alive. The human had used her own body heat, her own flesh and bone, to shield the infant from the freezing temperatures and falling debris. In her final moments as raiders and death surrounded her, she had chosen to save a child of her enemies. What was her name? Zarketh asked, his voice rougher than usual. One of his soldiers accessed the colony records. Katniss. Katniss Everdeen. Colony engineer. 24 standard years old. Zarketh stood cradling the cub in his arms. Around him, his soldiers remained in their respectful stance, and he understood why. In Apex culture, there was no higher honor than to die protecting the young. Any young. Even the young of one's enemies. There was another human, a soldier reported, approaching with a datapad. Neo Anderson. Security officer. The records show he died defending the evacuation route. 17 colonists escaped because of him. He held the line against 8 Cretan warriors. Alone. The pattern repeated across the colony. Humans, vastly outgunned and outnumbered, had fought not for victory but for time. Time for others to escape. Time for the weak to flee. Time for children, human and alien alike, to survive. Zarketh had studied human history during the flight to Proxima 7, trying to understand these strange creatures. He'd read about their wars, their atrocities, their capacity for cruelty. But he'd also read about their heroes, about firefighters who ran into burning buildings, about soldiers who threw themselves on grenades, about mothers who faced down bears to protect their young. The files called it altruism. The psychologists called it irrational self-sacrifice. The Apex had no word for it because such behavior was incomprehensible to a species that valued survival. Above all else, 3 months later, Zarketh stood before the Galactic Council. The Cretan cub, now healthy and thriving, sat in a special chamber beside him. The Council had demanded an explanation for why the Apex Legion had not only spared the cub, but had declared a blood debt to humanity. "We found 23 acts of similar sacrifice that day," Zarketh reported, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Humans who died protecting those weaker than themselves. Humans who chose compassion over survival. Katniss Everdeen, Neo Anderson, and 21 others whose names we now speak with reverence." He paused, letting his words sink in. The Apex Legion has existed for 10,000 years. We have conquered worlds. We have crushed rebellions. We are the Council's hammer, feared across 100 systems. But never, never have we witnessed courage like this. The Council members shifted uncomfortably. Courage they understood. What made them uneasy was what came next. From this day forward, Zarketh declared, when an Apex soldier speaks the name of Katniss Everdeen, they will kneel. When they speak the name of Neo Anderson, they will kneel. Not in submission, but in recognition. These humans have shown us what we've forgotten in our millennia of strength. That true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the willingness to sacrifice. The Cretan ambassador, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, finally stood. The cub, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You saved our child. No, Zarketh corrected. Katniss saved your child. With her body. With her life. With her humanity. The ambassador approached the chamber, tears streaming down his scaled face. In Cretan culture, a life debt was absolute, unbreakable. The raids will stop, the ambassador declared. The Cretan people declare eternal peace with humanity. We will tell our children of Katniss, of the human who covered our cub with her own body. And we too will kneel when we speak her name. The council erupted in chaos, but Zarketh didn't care. He'd already made his decision. The Apex Legion had found something more valuable than conquest on Proxima 7. They'd found a reason to be better. Now, across Apex space, young soldiers learned the names. Katniss, Neo, heroes of Proxima 7. And when those names were spoken in the barracks, in the war rooms, in the halls of power, the mightiest warriors in the galaxy dropped to one knee, because humanity had taught them what they'd forgotten, that some things are worth dying for. And that the soft heart beating in a human chest was perhaps the most dangerous weapon in the universe.